So, in this next episode of My Sales Therapy, we're going to look at those sales methodologies, in particular, looking at their pros, their cons, but more importantly, when you should use them. So, as for our first four methodologies, the pros, cons, and where we would use them, we'll kick off with spin selling. Developed by Neil Rackham, spin stands for situation, problem, implication, and need payoff. It focuses on asking questions to uncover the customer's situation, identify problems, understand their implications, and highlight the need for the product or services. As such, where we would use it is especially effective in that complex B2B sales environment. Second up, the Challenger Sale. The Challenger Sale, developed by Matthew Dixon and Brent Adamson, focuses on challenging the customer's assumptions and pushes them to think differently. It asserts that the most successful salespeople are those who challenge customers and lead them to reevaluate their needs and priorities. Is specifically used in that competitive market where insights really matter to the client. Gong selling. Gong.io is a sales conversation analytics platform which has been introduced and has actually introduced its own methodology. It combines data driven insights from recorded sales calls with the best practices to improve the performance of sales teams. One of the cons, it relies heavily on technology. So if you don't have technology and most of your meetings are face to face, it might not be your number one sales methodology, but definitely has a place in your sales team. Where would we use it? Tech-driven sales, any environment really where we're Zoom or Teams based, that type of setup. Then finally, MEDDIC. MEDDIC stands for metrics, economic buyer, decision criteria, decision process, identify pain, and then finally champion. It's a B2B sales methodology that provides a framework for qualifying and advancing sales opportunities. Is really useful when it's got a complex sale or high value sales, specifically in technology or in the B2B industry sides. They're the first four. Next up, BANT. BANT stands for budget, authority, need, and timeline. It's a framework that sales reps have used for years, and actually, it's super simple. But what it helps you do is both qualify in and qualify out. A lot of the time with sales, we feel like we need to make every sale, but sometimes the whole point is if it's not a sale, then don't try and sell it. It's an overly simple process, which can be seen as both a pro and a con. But if you're looking for a quick sale, then it's potentially the environment for you. We will see as we go through the other sales methodologies that they're built on this kind of framework, and then they've been adapted, they've been improved, and they've just come up with the times. Next, Miller Hyman. So when Robert Miller and Stephen Hyman created this signature sales process, it was results of decades of innovative sales strategy. They had to think outside of the box. And why did they? Because they knew that if you're outside of your comfort zone, you start to test what you're doing and how you're doing it. They say the definition of insanity is continuing to do the same thing and expecting a different result. Miller Hyman, make sure you don't fall into that insanity kind of mindset. You move beyond this one size fits all. Miller Hyman looks at complex sales. It represents that you need to offer a tailored value proposition to the different roles and the different people that you're dealing with. This means that salespeople can't just deliver this one size fits all model and think it will work. But finally, and probably the biggest point for Miller Hyman, is it helps build trust. Where you build trust, you build repeat business. And where you build repeat business, do you know that people trust you in such a different way that it makes more sense to continue to do business with you on a long term. As a recap, AIDA is a classic marketing model that stands for attention, interest, desire, and action. It finds its way into my top 10 sales methodologies because actually it gives you these clear stages for guiding that sales process. And if you can guide the sales process, then actually your marketing will do most of the sales for you. One thing we have to take into consideration, though, is buying behaviors. Sometimes they're not as clean or as nice as we'd like to be, depending on the sale. We see AIDA used in that traditional sales scenario, so where it's product centric, those kind of environments for us. make Ada a really powerful marketing tool that can interlink with sales and create a really strong pitch from outset that will definitely get clients interested. Finally, we go on to solution selling. So one of the biggest cons of solution selling is on the basis we need to do loads of research. So actually we could find ourselves doing loads of research ahead of time, figuring out what the pains are, what the problems are, etc., but then not get the sale. And the reason we don't get the sale is because it's one that we've qualified out. So the cons, potentially there's a lengthy sales cycle and super complex, and we still might not win it. It does suit, though, where we would use it is in a consultative sales environment. So if there's an advice given approach or something similar, then it's a really strong methodology to use in that space. So we'll see it in B2B business quite a lot. So the last two we have now are Sandler and social media selling. When we think of Sandler, we know that what we are trying to emphasize is that relationship building model. So we want a model that's got longevity in it. It's going to have, as we know, some unconventional techniques in there as a con. And the reason behind that is because it's going to be a complex model. It's going to be a model where we're trying to really get to grips and really research the companies that we deal with. Where we're going to use it, as it says there on the screen, the way that we're going to use the Sandler model is for building relationships for the long term. So B2B, probably a little bit, but normally if you're working in an intermediated market or you've got multiple clients within the same space. Finally, onto social media selling. So the pros of social media selling, and by social media, we're talking LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all of the above really, X, all of those. It's got that wide reach. We know we're going to get out to multiple people. And actually, we know if we do something well enough, it could even go viral. And so we could have something that goes out to the masses. So the engagement opportunities, definitely a pro, as long as you get it right. And to get it right, it does require a strategy. You can't just go out with something willy-nilly. You need a strategy, and the content and the creation of the content needs to stay consistent. Where do we use it? Again, if you're a new brand, really good for that. So building your brand present into the market. The same if you're entering a new market, exactly the same kind of concept there. And if you want to engage with a broader audience, as long as you stay consistent, you can get out there with some really good opportunities by using social media. And it's kind of the done thing these days. That brings us to the end of the 10 different sales methodologies that we went throughout the last 20 days. Hopefully that's been useful. Again, if you want to know anything more about these, please do let me know. I will pick them off individually and do a slightly longer video on each.